Welcome. My name is Ileana, and I'm a librarian at the San Francisco Public Library. And again, so excited to have this author event because we have an incredible author illustrator all the way from Switzerland. I can't even get that out. K-Fai Steele is all the way from Switzerland joining us. So first, before we begin our program, we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula and continue to live, work, and play here today. As the indigenous stewards of this land and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. Thank you so much to SFUSD for their partnership in this program and to the Friends of the San Francisco Public Library for their generous support of our program series. We could not do this without them. Without further ado, I am very pleased to introduce my colleague over at SFUSD, Ayana. Ayana, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to introduce K-Fai Steele. She writes and illustrates picture books. She grew up in a very old house and loved reading, drawing, and cats. She wrote and illustrated All Eyes on Ozzy and A Normal Pig. And she's also illustrated many other books by other people, including Noodlefint and Okapi Tale by Jacob Kramer. She used to live in San Francisco and had her studio right by our school in the Tenderloin. And she now lives, as you heard before, in Lausanne, Switzerland. So please welcome K-Fai Steele.
Hi, Ayana. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I really miss San Francisco a lot. I really miss the people, my friends. I really miss the food. And I think most of all, I really miss the library. So it's a total treat to be with you all virtually here. I wanted to talk a little bit about, because this is for SFUSD and there are a lot of students that are joining us today. I wanted to talk a little bit about me when I was a kid. So we have the wonderful Lisa who's helping me with these slides. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so maybe some of you are around 7 years old who are watching. This is me. I think I was around 7. I feel like I haven't changed that much in the way that I look, but this is a class picture. And then that's me with my brothers growing up. And as you can see, so I'm the youngest. Is there anyone here who's the youngest child? I'm kind of just like curious. But I'm the youngest. I have 2 older brothers. And I think that kind of means, at least for me, when you're a youngest child, you want attention all the time and you never get it. And then when you do get it, you kind of don't know what to do with it. So there I am. We had caught these giant fish in Maine, and I'm holding my bunny. Can we go to the next slide, please? And so I have not always been an adult, and I've not always made art that looks like art you would find at a library. So this was actually my first published book. It's called The Wishing Children. I wrote it with my dad. It has a bunch of cats in it. And it actually there was this initiative in the 80s and 90s. I don't know if it's still happening now, but it was called Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. And my dad brought me to his work. He worked for the Social Security Administration. And the thing that I was most excited about was using his computer And the second thing was using the photocopier. And I'm still obsessed with photocopiers, but there is something so powerful about having access to something that could make multiple copies of whatever I drew. So I had this very deep sense of like the magic of publication from a pretty young age. Can we go to the next slide, please? You can get a sense of what my drawings looked like. I also wanted to show you that my drawings weren't always, I mean, I'm not going to tell you that my drawings are great now, but like my drawings didn't always look like quite legible, or I think I was pretty proud of these when I made them. It's like a cat family. And, it's just a kind of messy. There are a lot of mistakes on here, but this is basically like my stuff hasn't always looked good. Can we go to the next slide, please? And I also, so I wanted to share a little bit about where I work too, just to sort of like continue with this demystification. So I work in my house, like I have over the past 2 years. And I have a desk, and I use materials like pencils and markers and watercolors and brushes and paper and things like that. And maybe this is all stuff that you have at home or that you've used at school. But just to let you know, when I'm making a book and you're seeing this finished product, I'm using probably the exact same materials and tools that you're using at home. So everything that you're holding right now, it's like everything, like the book that you have read or that I'm going to share with you, it was made with things that you could probably scrounge up and make a book with. So now I think what I'm going to do is I want to share this book with you, and then I'm going to lead you through a drawing activity, and then we'll do some questions. Does that sound good? Cool. So let's begin. Okay, so this book is called All Eyes on Ozzy. And these are the end sheets. This is like the intro to all of the cast of characters. The book is All Eyes on Ozzy. So these are all some of the people. Sorry, Lisa, can you go back? So what's kind of exciting about that cast of characters is that a lot of these kids are real people, and I drew them. A couple of them are my friends, a couple of them are students that I've met, and a couple of them, at least one of them, is a family member of mine. But I wanted to have a cast of characters that felt, like real people. Okay, now let's move forward. Let's just start with the story. All Eyes on Ozzy. Ozzy loved to get attention. She always found ways to stand out, sometimes by herself, and she's singing, maybe you've heard the song before, In the Big Rock Candy Mountain, and she's got a rapt audience of senior citizens. If you ever want a rapt audience to perform in front of, this is a pro tip. So sometimes she found ways to stand up by herself, and that also included doing things like this, or like this. Maybe you've done this before. She's got the attention of her cat here. And sometimes with her best friends, Zena and Rosa. So I had friends growing up, and I think there were definitely long stretches of times where we just communicated to each other through meowing. But there was one person she loved getting attention from most of all. Miss Bamba was Ozzy's music teacher. She was her favorite teacher. She was everyone's favorite. Ms. Bamba taught all kinds of useful stuff, like how your heartbeat will match up to the beat of a drum. It's what makes you want to dance. So this is actually a real thing, and something I've always wanted to put into a book. If you listen to music, your heartbeat really does match up to the beat of the music. And she made learning new things fun. So she's teaching about sheet music and how you read sheet music. One day, Ms. Bamba had everyone pick an instrument to play for the school recital. Vamos a bailar, let's dance. I'm picking the clarinet, said Zena. Dibs on the alto saxophone, said Rosa. Oh, rats, thought Ozzy. Maybe there's a didgeridoo or a zither or a yaz. If you don't know what a yaz is, you should look it up because it's an incredible instrument. It's from India. Then she thought of the most attention-grabbing instrument, the drums. This looks pretty good, right? She's ready to shred. But when Ozzy got the sheet music, it wasn't so attention-grabbing after all. I guess I just like improv the drum solo. You can look at her sheet music and it's just like bump, 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 bump. There's no drum solo in our song, said Ms. Bamba. You play your part and your part is to keep the beat. Okay, so insider thing that I will never tell anyone else. Originally, I had this line as, there's no drum solo in Frosty the Snowman, said Ms. Bamba. So I was imagining the song would be Frosty the Snowman, but it's changed. It got cut in the editing process. Anyway, let's move on. You play your part, your part's just to keep the beat, Ozzy. But Ozzy had a better idea. Boom, 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 bum, ba, 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 bum, 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 bum. You're going to get us all off beat, said Remy. You're doing it wrong, hissed Caden. She's ruining it for everyone, yelled Paul. Your part's actually easy, said Francis. I can help you. Let's just take it from the top, said Ms. Bamba. For the rest of practice, Ozzy played her part, and she did it so well that Ms. Bamba gave her an additional instrument. And that instrument is what? The triangle. And she's going bum, 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 ding. How does she look here? Does she look like she's having a good time? Okay, should we go? Let's move on. Ozzy knew that everyone played their part. And Ms. Bamba saying, go, go, Zena. Take us to the bridge, Rosa. Rosa's really wailing on that alto saxophone. But Ozzy just wished her part was better. Don't we all, Ozzy? Ozzy really didn't see the point in playing music if it wasn't fun and it didn't make you want to dance and it didn't match your heartbeat to the beat. How were you supposed to feel good when all you got was bomb, 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 ding? Ozzy felt invisible. The night of Vamos a Bailar, Let's Dance came and Ozzy was not feeling good. Her heart was going tum, 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 tum. There are so many people out there, said Zena. I can see my grandma, said Rosa. I think I have to go to the bathroom, said Ozzy again. The stage lights were hot. Ozzy was sweating. She couldn't breathe or blink. Everyone, including the audience, was silent. Ms. Bamba counted the band in with her baton. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ozzy froze. All around her, the trumpets, the flutes, the trombones, the clarinets, they all melted into a heap of noise. Uh-oh. When Miss Bamba's baton, Ms. Bamba looked at Ozzy and she began to play the beat. Tum, tump, tump, tump. And Ozzy began to tap her boot and gently hit the drum. Bum, bum, bum. I think you have it now, whispered Miss Bamba. Are you ready to lead us in? Ozzy held the beat for the whole band. She was dancing and she didn't even realize it. Everyone was locked into the song, especially Ozzy. Zena and Rosa bounced their heads. Ms. Bamba smiled and moved her shoulders while she swung her baton. She looks like she's having a pretty good time now, right? Afterwards, they all jumped up to take a bow. Zena and Rosa squeezed Ozzy's hands, and Ozzy squeezed back and smiled at the crowd. The applause was so loud. Her heart went tump, 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 tump. And now that the show was over, Ozzy looked at Ms. Bamba for her next cue. Bum, 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 and we have some kids in the corner going meow, 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 meow. And then she ends it with ding. And that's the story. Thank you all. Okay, so now I thought we could do something fun and draw together. So everyone should grab something to draw with. And I would say grab 2 pieces of paper. So this is going to be recorded, so you don't have to panic if you don't have anything now. You can just watch and then do this. You can rewatch it from this part going on. But for this, you're going to need 2 pieces of paper. And what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do this, is because I get a lot of questions about characters and character development. And I think a lot of folks have kind of a hard time coming up with characters for stories. And I wanted to teach you a really fast way that I sometimes play around with I sometimes do this in my sketchbook to come up with new characters. And so I actually have some students who did this, who helped me out with this from John Muir Elementary, some 2nd graders, I believe. But let's, if you can help me move forward, let's watch the video and then we can go back to the faces and all those examples. Wonderful. All right, so everyone's going to have a piece of paper and you're going to fold that piece of paper into 4 pieces. And then basically on each piece, you're going to draw a different head shape. So by the end of it, you're going to have 4 different head shapes. And you're going to pass it to the next person. And then you're going to draw eyes on each of the 4 things, but basically you want to have a different person working on each thing. So one person draws eyes, the next person draws another pair of eyes. Okay, now don't draw noses, don't draw mouths or anything like that, but you want to write the emotion, like write a different emotion at the top of each piece of paper. So basically you're going to have 4 heads and you're going to have some eyes and then some noses and then some emotions, and then you're going to give your character a name. So that was really fast, but I'm going to describe to you. Boo, boo, boo. Let's go to the next slide. Basically, here are some head shapes that you can work with. If you're panicking and you're like, I don't even remember what a head looks like, just keep it at like the most simple geometric thing, a circle or a square. Some people have heads that are shaped like triangles. My cousin is the lower right. She has a head that's kind of shaped like a peanut. So yeah, put one of these in each of your squares. Can we move to the next slide, please? And now you're going to do eyes. So basically each person is going to do a set of eyes in the square. So here's some eyes that you could use as examples. Maybe you might recognize some of these eyes from different cartoon characters. Lower left is Garfield, lower right is SpongeBob. Kind of diagonal from that is like Pikachu. But here's some eyes, and feel free to pause this on here if you want to get some examples of eyes. Let's move on. And then here, because I think people also kind of like freak out when it comes to noses, it can be very simple. A U shape, a bigger U shape if you want a bigger nose, a circle, a pig nose, but you can also do like any kind of shape that you like. So let's move on. And then, so here are the characters these 2nd graders came up with. So these are characters that were made by, it wasn't just one person that made this character, it was several people who worked together to make this character. Can we go to the next one too? So this is Makoto, and they're feeling mad. I might be mispronouncing these names. This is Eye Stripe, and Eye Stripe is feeling confused. Let's go to the next. These are fantastic drawings, by the way. I love these. I mean, look at this. So this is a foot head, and I think I would say that foot head is definitely feeling some confusion. Like they don't even know how they ended up here. Okay, next one, please. And this is Ruth. And I think Ruth is like really like vibing, like having like a pretty nice time, maybe feeling like they're having a lot of fun. Okay, let's move to the next, please. And we have Daniel, who is feeling loved. Look at this sweetie. They're just like the most wonderful person. I want to have Daniel around me kind of all the time. Okay, next, please. And then we end with Foot, who is like a very visibly mad. Like Foot is like having a pretty bad day. Okay, so can we go to the next slide, please? So basically we have these 6 characters that were made by 4 different people. And the reason that I want you to work with other people to do this is because before, like when you could still hang out with other people, one of my favorite things to do, and still is to draw with other people and to come up with characters with other people. So when I saw Makoto, Eye Stripe, Foot, Head, Ruth, Daniel, and Foot together, I was like, all right, they're all together and they definitely have a story to tell. And so I want to give you an example of how I might, you came up with these characters. John Muir Elementary 2nd graders came up with these characters, kind of out of nowhere. It's just like by playing a game. But just through playing a game and mixing eyes and noses and heads and emotions, you can come up with a story. And so I always, I'm going to tell you the story that I came up with, and I'll show you how you can kind of mess around with that story. So you have Makoto, I put them in order because I was like, maybe there's an order and I can tell a story with them when all their emotions being in order. I'm like, okay, Makoto's mad. Then you have Eye Stripe and Foothead who are confused. Ruth is laughing. Daniel is like feeling like sweet and loving. And then Foot is like very mad. So I was like, okay, what's a story I could think of? And I was trying to think of something San Francisco-y. It's like, why would Makoto be mad? It's like maybe something isn't living up to their expectations. And so I was like, okay, well, where's a place in San Francisco? I could stick them all. What's a place that has like a funny name? And I was like, well, maybe like the Dog Patch or something like that. That's a neighborhood in San Francisco. So I was thinking Makoto is mad because they came to the dog patch and they really love dogs. And there were like no dogs in the dog patch. They just thought it was going to be like full of dogs. And then maybe Eye Stripe and Foothead are like kind of confused, like, what is even going on here? Like, what is this neighborhood? Ruth is like, I love dogs. And maybe Daniel is like, yeah, I really love dogs too. And then Foot is like, what are you all doing here? What are you all doing in my house? Get out of here. So I was like, okay, I know I can mix together these emotions. Maybe there's a story here. And so I'm like, what's happening? Who are all of these people? And I was like, well, maybe all of them from Makoto to Daniel are all kids. Okay. And they show up at the dog patch and they're expecting to see a dog and they end up in someone's house by accident. And it's Foot's house and Foot is really mad. So that's an example of how you could think of a story. I don't know if that works or not, but can we go to the next slide? You could take these characters and then you can move them around and come up with like, maybe there's a different kind of story you could think of. So if you think of these, if you just move, can we go back one slide, please? Thanks. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so starting with like, I didn't change their names, but I think that's Daniel saying like, Daniel could be something like, I love dogs. Ruth could be like, yeah, I love dogs too. Makoto's like, I don't like dogs. They bark and they're loud and they poop and they smell like wet dogs sometimes. And then Eye Stripe and Foothead are like, hey, where do we end up anyway? And then maybe Foot is like, what are you doing in my house again? I told you to leave. So basically, I'm showing you that out of nothing, you can really come up with a whole cast of characters who are doing something in a story. So then I could leave it up to you. Like, what happens after this? Do they all run away? Do they decide to like, hey, I'm pretty comfortable in this house. I think I'm going to stay. Like, what happens next? Okay, so now that we have that, I wanted to answer some questions from students. And who are these, Ms. Ayana, where are these students coming from? Who asked these questions?
So these are first grade students here at Tenderloin Community School from Mr. Saunders' class. So you'll hear their voices.
I love your book. I love your book. Your book is a good book to read, and I like the title, and I also like the part when you said that Ozzy's eye was popping thing something.
I mean, I should have said questions, comments, and compliments. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, I really like this part too. I think I love her belly button. I love the way that she's jumping on that stuff. I love her cat popping out. So the cat is actually based on my cat. I have a cat that looks like Ozzy's cat. Should we go to the next question?
Why does Ozzy want attention so much?
So this is a great question. And I actually get this from a lot of people. Why does Ozzy want attention so much? And I guess the way I was thinking about it was, I think there's nothing wrong with wanting attention. And I think there's something about attention where you want to be acknowledged. It's about like wanting to connect with someone that you really like, and it's wanting to be acknowledged by someone that you really like. Like, because you don't really want attention from people who you're not interested in, or people who you don't like, right? Maybe you do, I don't know. But Ozzy loves getting attention from her dad here, and she loves getting attention from Ms. Bamba. And it's because, when you really love a teacher, you really love someone, you want them to acknowledge you, right? You want them to make you feel special. It's because there's something about them that makes you feel, the way they interact with you, that makes you feel special. So yeah, I'm not really sure why she wants attention so much, but I think that there's a part of us all that really does want attention. And there's totally nothing wrong with that. And I would also ask you maybe why you think she likes attention so much. Next question.
My name is Edgar. How you draw the instruments?
Okay, Edgar, this is a great question. How did I draw all of the instruments? The instruments at first were really fun to draw. And then I was like, oh no, I actually have to figure out what a tuba really looks like and what a clarinet actually looks like. And a saxophone there's so many parts. So what I did was I did a Google image search of all these. I made a list of all the different instruments and a list of all of the kids and what instrument they would play. And then I just looked up photos of instruments. I mean, if you actually played a clarinet or an alto saxophone and you looked really closely at my drawing, you'd be like, that is not accurate. But then, I mean, you look at some of these kids and they're not photorealistic drawings of kids. So I was like, I can draw. And as long as I get the general shape and the general color, people are going to know what I'm talking about. So I tried to not get too hung up on making it look perfect. It just needed to look good and it needed to look legible. Like people needed to be able to look at it and say, okay, that's definitely a triangle, or that's definitely a saxophone. That's a tuba. So yeah.
How did you do art good?
How did I do art good? Okay, so that's a really good question. I feel like that's like the question of my life. one thing I tell anyone who draws, because I'm guessing there are a lot of people who are watching this who like to draw and who like to write, but maybe you sometimes get hung up because you don't think your art looks very good. Again, I would say, I don't think that art necessarily needs to look good. I just think it needs to convey some sort of feeling, and it needs to be, it just needs to like be readable. So here, I mean, you know, it's like a messy bedroom, but if you were to technically look at this, like the proportions are all off. A real room might not actually, like the floor might not slope so much. But I just wanted to convey basically the feeling like Ozzy has a lot of interests. If a kid has a lot of interest, they're going to have a lot of things in their room, right? There's going to be stuff everywhere. It might be messy. So I just focused on just filling this room with lots of stuff. And then I wanted to show her in this emotional state, like being like flopping down on the bed. But back to your question, how did I learn how to draw so well? I think if you want to be a good writer, if you want to be a good illustrator, you need to be a really good reader. And when I was a kid, my parents didn't buy a lot of, I didn't own a lot of books. But my parents did my mom brought me to the library a lot as a kid. And I was a kid who would always leave the library with a really big stack of books. I'm still one of those people who leaves the library with a really big stack of books. And I would copy what I would see in those books. So I would literally I'd have paper like this. There's a lot of scrap paper we had in our house, and I would just draw what I saw. And even now still, if there's something that I like to draw, I will just copy it. So All Eyes on Ozzy is the exact same size as a piece of paper. So a piece of printer paper. So I'm giving you all permission to trace anything in this book, and to draw the characters and to trace the characters, or you could do that with a normal pig. I don't have any problem with you copying my work, because I think that's how people learn how to draw better, is by copying things. Thank you. That was a really wonderful question. I love answering that question.
Okay, K-Fai, I think we have a couple of questions, or a few questions from the chat.
Cool.
So from John Muir, do you play a musical instrument?
Oh, I did. I used to play an instrument. I played the xylophone, and I wish I played the drums. I didn't really play the drums, but I have a baby now, and the baby really likes different kinds of noise. So we bought a lot of noise-making instruments. We have a little synthesizer we found at a Goodwill, and just maracas and things like that. So I mean, I'm always listening to music, and I love dancing and things like that. So I think that having music, I always listen to music when I'm drawing. I like to dance when I draw and things like that. So I would say, I can kind of play an instrument. If you were to put me in front of an audience, I don't think I'd know what to do. But yeah.
Okay. Our next question from YouTube: is the book about you? Is the character based on you?
Yeah. So that's, the short answer is kind of, but also it's interesting. So I wanted to make a character. I was pulling definitely from my life and from experiences that I had as a kid. But I would say that as I got to know this character, the character becomes someone who's a little different than you. And so what I mean by that is, I can show you. This is something that I wanted to share. I have a sketchbook. I don't know if anyone else keeps a sketchbook, but this is where I keep all of my ideas. And what I do is, when I'm bored, or when I'm waiting for something, I'll just draw in my sketchbook. And after a while, I'll have these characters that show up over and over again. And here's another character that I was drawing a lot. And I just sort of wait for the character to sort of tell me who they are. And I think I was just at a time where I was drawing a character that looked a lot like me. And I was thinking, well, I know I can tell a lot of details about this character. I had a really messy room as a kid, and I played instruments when I was a kid too. But yeah, I So yes, the character is kind of like me, but also I would say with any art that you make, with any books that you make, with a normal pig, for example, or with other characters that I draw, there's always a little bit of yourself that you put into characters. But Ozzy definitely is a little more me than not me.
Okay, so your sketchbook kind of leads into the next question from fifth graders at Alvarado here in the city. They want to know what made you write this book and how was the publishing process?
Oh, that's a really great question. Okay, what made me write this book? So I wanted to write a book. Well, first I came up with this character. This character just kept on showing up over and over in my sketchbook. And I knew that I wanted to have something. I was like, this character. So when I come up with a character, then I come up with like a problem that the character has to deal with. And the problem I was thinking a lot about was I hate experiencing competition with other people. And I especially don't like feeling competition with my friends. And there are sometimes, if you're doing the same thing that your friend is doing and they become, they get a lot of attention or they do something really well, and maybe you start to feel like some feelings of jealousy or something like that. I was like, I want to have a book because that makes me so uncomfortable. And I would love to make a book that kind of touches on that feeling. So that was the idea in the very beginning. And actually this part over here, when her friends start getting all of this great attention from Ms. Bomba, and then she's just like kind of feeling a little left out. I was like, this is what stayed from that story. And then as I made the book kind of became about something else, which was, I don't know, I like to think of the book as kind of like, listen, sometimes it's just like not about you. And then other times it's like definitely all about you, right? And I think the difference is like knowing when it's okay to sort of like be big and want attention and all of that stuff. And when you have to like step back and not be so obnoxious, right? And Ms. Bomba helps her with that, right? I can just show you one example of that is this scene where she's like going really wild on the drums. And, everyone's not really feeling it. Like, it's kind of like everyone's like, we're not so into that. But then at the very end, she's going wild on the drums and everyone is kind of like with her in this moment, right? So I wanted to show a story that was like, it kind of became about that, about like shining with the support of other people versus just being obnoxious. And like, how do you figure out like when it's appropriate for you to shine, right?
Okay, so here's a question. Ozzy's room is so messy. Her parents don't tell her to clean it?
Oh my gosh. So did you have a messy room when you were growing up? Were you a clean person? Ms. Ayana?
Oh, I will say that I'm clean. I shared with my two sisters and I'll blame it on one of them. I won't say which one.
So I can show you the original art for that scene actually. And this scene took me a really long time to paint because there's so much happening in here. So again, like I said, it's just like paper and watercolor and pencils and things like that. This probably took me about a week to finish. Maybe I didn't work on it like every minute of every day, but it like from beginning to end, it probably took me about, a little less than a week. But yeah, I mean, she is really messy, right? But I think she's just one of those kids, I don't know, like kids are like whirlwinds. And when they get excited about stuff, they'll like pick up one thing and drop another thing. And it's just messes happen really fast, right? I'd like to think that Ozzy can clean up after herself, but she probably isn't that happy about having to spend a whole day cleaning.
The fifth graders from Alvarado are saying thank you so much for sharing your process with them. And
You're welcome.
It looks like that's all that's come in. So
that's wonderful. That's
thank you for answering all those questions.
Oh yeah. Of course. I'm very happy to.
That's fantastic, K-Fai, and thank you, Miss Ayana, for sharing those questions out. I had a messy room. definitely. And I really relate to Ozzy. I loved the book. So thank you so much for sharing that, and for being here and for joining us. Do you have any kind of last mentions, last thank yous, anything else you'd like to share? Anything you're working on that you
Oh
can
yeah.
share?
Well, well, there's one thing. I mean, Ms. Ayana knows about this. I'm working on a book that is about a school librarian who is like a really wonderful school librarian, and it's actually based on the Tenderloin Community School Library. Like literally, like my studio. I used to bike every day to my studio in San Francisco. My studio was at Turk and Van Ness, and my window actually overlooked the Tenderloin Community School. And I went there for a school visit one day, actually with Mr. Saunders, second grader, first grade class, Mr. Saunders class. And I just fell in love with the library there. And I asked if I could use it as inspiration for the next book I was working on. So I'm actually working on that stuff now. One other thing I did want to share is, I live really far away from San Francisco now. The country that I live in, they speak French. So the libraries here, they're actually kind of similar to the libraries in the US. It's like people go there to use the computers and to get out books and things like that. And but all of the books here are in French. So I feel like I'm just really missing the access to the library. And I'm seeing that the SFPL is opening all of your branches again. And I would just really recommend that everyone go to your library. I'm sure your librarians have really missed you, and I'm sure the books have really missed you. And please do it for me. Take out a really big stack of books and just read them, and I will try to absorb that through you. But again, like I said before, like if you want to become an author and illustrator, you start by becoming a really good reader.
Yes, thank you so much. You did it all, K-Fi. You did it all. You did my announcement. You did yours. You shared a little bit. No worries. We have more accolades kind of coming in for you. Thank you from West Portal Elementary, from Francis Scott Key, the second graders over there. We have some messy room solidarity happening on the YouTube chat.
Yeah, I kind of don't really trust anyone who has a perfectly clean room. I'm sorry. I see it and I'm just like, I don't know. You're just a very different person for me. Maybe we should be friends.
Yeah. Oh, well, this was such a treat. So we are just so thankful that you were part of our city and that you're able to share these books, and we do miss you as well. So it's good to see you here, and in the future we will see you again in person. Absolutely. And everybody will take out all the books in on their own library cards in K-Fai's name. Yeah, thank you so much. So just remember, everybody, you can find All Eyes on Ozzy and other K-Fai Steele books at your local SFPL library locations. They're also in SFUSD Libraries. Talk to your teacher librarians, talk to your children and youth services librarians, and use your Scholar card to access them. If you love today's program, you can rewatch it on YouTube. You can share it with your friends and other classmates. And that's all we have for today. So take good care of yourselves, stay safe, and we hope to see you back at the SFPL Virtual Library and in person at our libraries soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.